Object-oriented programming has certain features that are very special and which have been developed over the C language. So what is this object-oriented programming? What is the speciality or significance of this new concept? It's a programming paradigm. Object-oriented programming is a type of programming. It is a new concept of programming in itself. Now, in the previous sessions, we had been seeing about C and how to program using the features available in C. Now, before we move over to C++, which is a OOP language, we have to identify how to program using C++. So, that method of programming itself is defined in this object-oriented programming. So, this uses something called data structures. So, what is a data structure? Structure of data. So, this is just a way of organizing and storing data or storing data in an organized manner. And this includes two concepts, one called data fields and the other is methods. That means the data structure stores and organizes data which can be manipulated using the functions or methods. A method is nothing but a function. So, the way of manipulating the data is done using these functions. As of now, it is necessary for you to know that object-oriented programming paradigm uses data structure concept where we store and organize data in a manner that is that is more efficient than the previous programming languages. And this data structure uses data fields. Data fields is nothing but something that contains the data. And method is something that operates on this data or uses the data. And secondly, we have something called interactions. Interaction, as we all know, it is just a basic English word which means that there is some communication between the data fields. So, there is data, it is stored and organized, there are functions to operate on that data and there is a mode of communication between these functions. So, in this way when programming is ordered or programming is done, it is called object-oriented programming. So, first we have something called the object, you have the class, instance, messages and methods which is nothing but the way of interactions and two other advanced concepts of inheritance and polymorphism. So, what is this object? Object also holds the same meaning that we have in the English language. It is nothing but a tangible entity which exhibits some behavior. Now, I can be called as an object, a car can be called as an object, it is some entity that we can physically see and physically feel, and each object has some behavior, it exhibits some behavior, it has some characteristics. So, the features of an object are identified by the state of the object, the behavior of the object and the unique identity. Every object has a unique identity. Now, we will see each of these parts of an object in detail. So, what is the state of an object? What all contributes to the state? State is defined by something called attributes and these attributes have values. Only when there are attributes of an object and we give some values to those attributes, we can identify the state. For example, as I said, a car is an object. So, when you simply say car, all cars do not look alike and all cars do not belong to the same design or model. So, what all features can explain or describe about a car? One is its color, its model, maybe the number of tires it has, what engine it uses. So, there are so many features which can distinguish or differentiate between cars. So, a car is an object and the state of the car or the description of a car can be given by so many parts of the car. So, each of it contributes to explaining the state of the object. So, state is nothing but in the stationary mode as such how you can explain or describe the object, that is what is called the state of the object. For example, certain objects we say can be in the running state or can be in the stationary state or can be in the slow moving state or reversing state. So, like this each object will have different states which can describe about it. Next we have the behavior of an object. Behavior is how an object responds. It is just the normal English term. Behavior is how an object acts and reacts in terms of its state changes and message passing. So, first you have to know what is a state and message passing is nothing but the interaction. So, an object as such will remain in some state, but when you interact with that object, when you want that object to do something or when you have some physical force exerted on that object, it immediately gives a response. So, the way it acts normally at the same time the way it reacts to some message or reacts to some input is called the behavior of an object. It is just equivalent to human behavior. So, when you take the same object of the car, how a car responds when you apply the different gears, how the car responds when you push the steering wheel to the left or to the right. So, based on the input that we give, how the object is responding. So, it can either move forward, it can either reverse, it can go fast, it can go slow. All these are the different behavioral patterns of a car. A car cannot fly, a car can only be on the road. So, the behavior of the car is identified by those limitations. So, that is how you differentiate a car from a plane. So, this is how an object is differentiated by its behavior. Next, you have this unique identity of an object. Identity, as we all know, every human has an identity, has a different name, something to differentiate them, to identify them among other people. Similarly, every object has an identity. This identity depends on who is manufacturing that object or who is using that object. So, an example is you can have two tennis balls, they mostly look alike, they have the same color, they have the same shape, mostly the same dimensions also, but they can have different companies which manufacture them, and even if one company is manufacturing them, they would have been manufactured on a different date or at a different time or in a different sequence. So, though the color, the material may be the same, the shape, dimensions may be the same, there will be some identity that differentiates one tennis ball from another. So, both of them are objects which may have the same state and exhibit the same behavior, but they can be identified by this unique identity. So, among the concepts related to an object, only the identity of an object is unique. So, this is what all features relate to the creation of an object in object oriented programming.